Constitution's protection of our right to read and espouse all sorts of things does not require that we ignore threats and parallels of American extremists today, seemingly reading from the same script of past American extremists who committed horrific acts of domestic terrorism. The Turner Diaries and Waco guys and the Hutari militia are accused of plotting and training for the mass murder of U.S. law enforcement officers and waging war against the U.S. government. A week from today, April 19th, is the 15th anniversary of the Turner Diaries and Waco-inspired bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah building, which killed 168 Americans. During this hour on MSNBC on April 19th, we will be airing a documentary. It's based on never-before-heard tapes of Timothy McVeigh, including his detailed account of what motivated him and what exactly happened on the day of the bombing in April 1995. Here is a preview from the McVeigh tapes. Again, the full special airs a week from tonight. In January 1993, Timothy McVeigh is frustrated by the dead-end existence he has been enduring since leaving the Army, and he is still shaken by his experiences in the Gulf War. Eager to figure out his mission in life, McVeigh packs up his car and says goodbye to his quiet hometown of Pendleton, New York.
I lasted at home for 1 year and 1 month. I said, this whole neighborhood, this ain't for me. You know, I don't have a place here. I haven't found a love. And then I hit the road.
The odyssey that he was living in the early 90s was really bizarre. He thought nothing of getting in his car and driving hundreds or even thousands of miles. And he was searching for something.
As a guy who I think had a lot of trouble relating to other people, that was a world that was very kind of amenable to him.
He was gathering inspiration and information for what he thought was his mission in life. He wasn't going to be the super soldier, so who was he going to be now?
McVeigh's mission is still unclear, but he's beginning to hone in on his main focus of fury, the U.S. government. He finds like-minded thinkers on the gun show circuit. During the early 1990s, these expos become gathering places for the fast-growing militia and patriot movements. It is in this subculture that McVeigh finally finds an outlet for his growing rage.
I mean, you could find an amazing amount of literature on insurgency, on forming militias, on building weapons. They're amazingly anti-government.
One of my favorite bumper stickers, when you've heard the one that says, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. Well, there's a new one that was my favorite. It says, when guns are outlawed, I will become an outlaw. And it was at that point when I was fully intent in my life that I was going to live outside of the law.
He started to believe that our government was going to come into people's homes and take their guns away. And this scared the hell out of Tim McVeigh.
And that same mentality is what you see from gun show to gun show to gun show. You know, get your weapons now, stockpile them now. For Tim McVeigh, this must seem like this is the next war that's about to be waged.
Tonight, at least 4 federal agents and 1 cult member are dead, and at least 14 other people were wounded in the gun battle.
On February 28, 1993, outside the central Texas town of Waco, many in the Patriot movement believe the spark to that next war is ignited.
You come pointing guns in the direction of my wives and my kids, damn it, I'll meet you at the door any time.
In an effort to take Branch Davidian spiritual leader David Koresh into custody, federal agents raid his compound, and a massive firefight breaks out.
6 Davidians and 4 ATF agents were killed, and that started the 51-day standoff.
It was a clash between federal law enforcement might and withdrawn people who were fiercely protective of their community.
We feel a bond in this community. The bond is that they're fellow gun owners and believe in gun rights, and they're fellow survivalists and freedom lovers. When do you draw the line and say enough is enough? Somebody has to send a message to say you can't go any further.
And McVeigh got in his little junk car and drove to Waco, Texas to find out what was going on.
Michelle Rausch, a college newspaper reporter at the time, was at the Branch Davidian compound outside Waco to investigate the story. It wasn't until 1 year after the Oklahoma City bombing that she realized the man she interviewed on the hood of his car was none other than Timothy McVeigh.
He was very unassuming. He was literally just very casual, sitting on the hood of his car. Very articulate. Tim said, people need to watch what's happening and heed any warning signs. At the time, I thought, well, what does that mean? Well, when I went back and read that in my article, it gave me chills because I thought, did that mean Oklahoma City? Was he foreshadowing?
After camping in his car outside the Branch Davidian compound for a few days, McVeigh drives to Terry Nichols' farm in northern Michigan.
In less than an hour, the compound that had fascinated the world for 51 days was destroyed in a raging inferno driven by...
On April 19th, 1993, McVeigh and Nichols watched the violent end of the Waco siege on television.
I'm watching flames lick out windows, and I'm watching tanks ram walls. And my eyes just welled up in tears, and tears started coming down my cheeks as I'm watching this scene unfold. Just stood there in stunned silence. What is this? What has America become? I just remember that scene. It burned into my memory. I'm emotional right now as I talk about it. You know, I felt absolute rage.
Tim saw this as an act of war against the people.
It was the bully again. This time, the horns were on the head of the federal government.
The rules of engagement, if not written down, are defined by the actions of an aggressor. Okay? Now, what rules of engagement would you interpret in examining Waco? Kids are fair game, women are fair game.
I think that was the final moment for McVeigh, and he says so himself, right? I mean, after Waco, now is the time for action, right? Now we're going operational.
With Oklahoma City being a counterattack, I was only fighting by the rules of engagement that were introduced by the aggressor. Waco started this war. Hopefully Oklahoma would end it.
You can watch our entire 2-hour special documentary, which is called The McVeigh Tapes, Confessions of an American Terrorist, next Monday, April 19th, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. We'll be right back. Okay, moment of geek. We know it's the tallest mountain in the world. We know it's in the Himalayas. We know that if you climb to the top of it, you will never make another Sherpa joke ever again in your life. What we don't know is exactly how tall Mount Everest is. China and Nepal are the two countries that share the border of Mount Everest. For a long time, they've had a dispute about it. Now, at this point, Kent Jones will help me illustrate at the big board. Hi, Kent. Nice to see you. Hi. Okay, so China claims Mount Everest measures 20,017 feet above sea level, right? Okay. Nepal, that's China. Nepal says that it's taller. Nepal says it's 12 feet taller. Nepal says Mount Everest is 20,029 feet above sea level. Why do they have the difference? Well, China measures from where the highest rock ends. Nepal measures the highest point, including any snow on top of that highest point. So that's how Nepal's view of Mount Everest is 12 feet bigger than China's. Who's right? Well, in Kathmandu recently, representatives from the two countries got together and agreed to acknowledge each other's measurements. One for rock, one for snow. Ta-da! Amazing! A diplomatic victory. Break out the supplemental oxygen. Tip your Sherpas. We're here all week. While this is very exciting news, there's also the uncomfortable fact that some geologists say that China and Nepal are probably both wrong. Tectonically speaking, Everest is getting taller all the time now because the continental plate that has India on it is getting tectonically shoved under the plate that has China and Nepal on it. So Everest is growing. Also, in 1999, the Boston Museum of Science and the National Geographic Society used GPS to calculate the height. They said that Mount Everest stood even taller, 29,035 feet. That's 6 feet higher than what the Nepalese say, 18 higher than what the Chinese say. And further, people climbing Everest have recently been reporting that the snow and the ice at the top has shrunk. Thanks, climate change. So how high is Mount Everest? I can only give you an 18-foot range, and Kent's ladder isn't that tall. But the range is growing as tectonic plates shift and shrinking as the planet heats up. Let none of that, however, change the remarkable fact that Nepal just got China to sit down to agree to something. Pointless and wrong as that thing might have been, it's still something. Thank you, Kent. You look great up there.
Thank you.